Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Welcome.
welcome back to We All Have Stuff.
Yay. This is another great episode with two lovely guests this time. This is Lisa and Jess, and we are going to talk to them about lots of good topics today, but let's just let them introduce themselves to us and then we can hop right in. So, Lisa and Jess, I'll pass it to you.
Okay,
Go
sounds
for it.
good. Hi, I'm Jess Marquez. I co own Village Therapy and Wellness with Lisa. We've been in practice together for about 10 years now and practicing solo for probably close to 15 or maybe getting to 20. So,
My name is Lisa Murphy. I am a licensed clinical social worker. As Jess said, we're the co owners of Village Therapy and Wellness. We also are the co owners of Village
Mm.
Vibes, which is a wellness community space that we have just kind of recently opened the doors to for our guests and our clients, and really just for anybody in the community that feels like they could benefit from some of the things that we're doing here.
Yay.
yeah,
Okay.
so can you, sorry, Gabby, I already
Yeah,
have questions.
we're excited.
Can you tell us more about the community? Because when we kind of read everything that you guys do, I think the thing like when me and Gabby go through those, we're like really like what sticks out to us and who sticks out to us, right? So the community aspect of what you guys are seem to be building seems really necessary and amazing. So like what made you guys like start that new community and like what can you kind of give me I like to kind of be like I was kind of like imagining you guys giving me a guided imagery of like what is it when I step into your office? Like why what is this doing for people and their families and the clients that you guys deal with?
Mhm. Yeah, you want to start?
Mhm.
So when you walk in, I don't know, we're located in Babylon, New York. So we're in Babylon Village. It's a tiny, tiny little village, but it's super fun. Lots of restaurants and shops and a lot of small businesses
Hmm.
here in the village. So when you come into the building, what we always kind of describe ourselves in a silly way is like a physical mullet. We're like a business mullet. So we're very much business in the front. That's our therapy practice. And then
Mhm.
we're kind of party in the back. That's Village Vibes is here in the back of the building. So when you come up front, that's again where the therapy
Mhm.
practice is. That's where all of our clinicians are going to practice. So we have a lovely waiting room and then all of our clinical office space up there. And then when you make your way down the hallway towards the back end of the building, that's where you come into Village Vibes. So Village Vibes was really kind of an offshoot of the practice because Jess and I felt like we've, been doing this for a really, really long time. But a lot of what we hear from the people that we work with is I can't find my people. I'm struggling to make friends later in life. I don't want to just socialize with my kids' friends' parents, or I don't have kids, so I don't know where to make friends. I
Mhm.
work remotely. I can't access people. So it was just something that Jess and I found people constantly, constantly, constantly feeling like they had a need for. And, as clinical therapists, we develop these very intimate relationships with our
Mhm.
clients, and we so much want to figure out different ways and creative ways to help them access some of these
Mhm.
things. So we felt like we were given an opportunity to open up a physical space. So we said maybe this is what we can do for our clients outside of the clinical box.
Right.
Maybe we can kind of create this community for them where they can access different social events,
Yeah.
different workshops, different educational seminars, things like
Mhm.
that. So it's kind of like a catch all of everything for anyone in the community. We run events for young
Mhm.
people, we run events for older people, moms, people in the middle. So it's really just a space for everyone.
Right. Like this week alone, we're doing a retreat kind of event where a bunch of folks can come in. They're going to be doing different kind of wellness activities. We have a book club running here this week. We have a different kind of educational seminar. So it really depends on the week and the month, what's going on. And really anybody that wants to host something or try a new idea can come here and be able to have their space here and find a home.
See, I love that. And what we were just talking, one of our first episodes was about building your village. So this is like a full circle moment for us. And I think that it's so important because we both hear the same things as you, like we just moved or we got a new job and we can't meet people. So I guess the big question is with everyone having the world so accessible all the time, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to meet people and connect with people? Because I mean, theoretically, you can find anybody, right?
If I had to
Mhm.
say, I would think that again, it all kind of comes back to the technology piece of
Mhm.
it, right? I think that so many people have become comfortable being in their phones
Mhm.
and they're on their phones and they're on social media,
Right.
TikTok, whatever, and they are seeing all of these events happening,
Mhm.
but there's something that's happening with them that they're not able to give themselves that
Yeah.
push. Either they don't feel comfortable doing things alone or they don't feel comfortable getting out into, people-centered events
Mhm.
where they don't know anybody, they don't know what to expect. So I think that it really has become this comfort that people have of viewing life through social media, but not actually engaging in it themselves in real time within their communities.
Yeah. I think as connected as we are, we're so isolated, right? As simple as like when growing up, if we wanted to get in touch with somebody, we'd have to pick up the phone and call them and get somebody on the other end. Now it's a quick text message or something behind my screen. So we've lost like the FaceTime with each other. There's so much screen time and less FaceTime. And I think that's part of it.
Do you like, I know you mentioned just starting that Village Vibes, but have your clients, like, taken to that? Because I imagine it, I'm like, "Oh, that's a great idea." If I imagine a lot of my clients who either, like, I think there's different things that came to mind when you said that. You have, like, clients or individuals in general that are just like, I struggle with social anxiety. But then you just have stages of life that are hard. Like one of you had mentioned that, like, you're getting older and it's like, where do you either go to find similar minded people or people that like, I want to connect with similar things or similar interests and that I can vibe with that way. And so it kind of creates a space. Are you finding it to be something where people are open because maybe they know you guys and so they're more willing to try it out?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting conversation for Jess and I as to how
Hmm.
to kind of like bridge that gap
Yeah.
between the practice and then the space, right? Because as clinicians, we never want to have anybody feel like
Right.
we're trying to sell them or
Right. Hmm.
upsell them
Yeah.
or, give that type of vibe to the services that we're trying to provide. So we've
Hmm.
kind of kept Village Vibes a little bit as a separate entity, although our clients are aware of it
Yeah.
and they know that they have access to it. And a lot of them do utilize it because of the safety that they feel knowing that
Hmm.
it's here in the space. But it's an interesting kind of gap to try to figure out how to bridge between
Yeah.
the practice and then the space in itself. So we had a really where this had kind of started was Jess and I had wanted to run like groups and different
Hmm.
types of events. So we were doing like a paint and meditate
Yeah.
night. And when we went around to some of the local businesses, we would share with them that we're local therapists
Hmm.
and we're running this event and it's something cool to check out. And if you're around, and the minute everybody heard that we were therapists, they backed up.
Hmm.
They were like, oh, it's not like a paint and sip. Like when we said, no, it's a paint and meditate. And they're like, oh, so that's when we were like, "Oh, okay, maybe
Yeah.
there is something to that where people feel like if it's run by therapists, it's gonna be too, social worky or it's gonna
Hmm.
be too therapy-like." So that's where we kinda said, "Well, let's pivot and see if we can be in the community, but maybe not as just therapists, but
Right.
just members of the community, right? That has a skill set behind us that
Hmm.
allows us to connect differently, but also, again, provide these different types of services."
Right. So we still wanted it to have this wellness component, but maybe take away some of the stigma associated with mental health.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And that I feel like this is a big topic in our field about where we bridge the gap between what's ethical to provide and what we can suggest to our clients versus what's actually helpful. And, what you're describing, I think we all run into it where we may say, hey, like, it's totally okay if you want to go to like a rage room, right? Like,
Right,
that's
yeah,
cool. That's a good, but, other therapists are like, that's not ethical to suggest something like that, right?
Hmm.
So, when we know that there are services that someone will uptake and maybe just removing that label of, hey, I'm a therapist, I'm providing this for your mental
Hmm.
health, that's like, that makes it much more accessible to people. It makes it much more palatable too.
Mhm.
So, when you encounter that, as for anyone listening and maybe for therapists who are hearing what you're saying and like, yes, this is so needed, what's the line there between how you market and how you promote yourselves without crossing that like, oh, we can't do this thing because we're therapists?
So we've kind of created really two separate businesses where we really do keep our therapy practice very, very separate from what we do at Village Vibes. And although maybe we advertise in our waiting room and we'll put up like different kinds of flyers for events that are happening, it's not like we use a separate mailing list. We use separate social media. So we try to keep everything as separate as possible so it doesn't feel like we are crossing that ethical boundary. And only people that are truly interested are the ones that have access and attend.
And again, you guys have to also, like, we're not typically the ones running the event.
Yeah,
So it's
no.
not like they're
Mm-mm.
coming to events that their therapists are
Right.
running. We
Mhm.
literally just have the room open for them. So we have
Right.
people completely unrelated to us, to the practice, to anything. They're the ones that are running the event. So it really is just us providing the physical space
Right.
and then again the access to it. So that's really where we've tried to keep that like super, super separate.
Right.
It's not
Avoiding like that dual relationship for sure.
It seems like you guys have this like it kind of makes me think that you're like the event planners. It's
Yeah.
like we're gonna host this space and be the event planner, but then we're gonna be behind the closed doors and just make the magic happen. So I
exactly
kind of
right.
like that.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
And then
exactly
it
right.
makes me think about like when I was younger, I would try to run like teen groups because you
Uh-huh.
have like I would have teens are hard and you'd have teenage girls coming in really struggling and a lot of their parents would be like, I don't know where to take them to socialize. And
Right.
like it became hard because of like all the ethical and legal things that we have to like worry about where it's like, okay, we want to run a group, but like sometimes I'm like, do they really need a group or they just like they don't really need we love a good processing group, right? All of us
Oh, for
therapists
sure.
love that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, okay, they don't want to just be in I'm going to group therapy to
Uh-huh.
talk about feelings. It's like I just kind of want to go around people and feel comfortable and with
Right.
kids my age. And so when you guys talked about that, I was like, oh, that's a great space for somebody like that who's just like,
Uh-huh.
I just want to go to this space, hang out, see how I feel, but it doesn't have to feel like this therapeutic group thing that I'm signing up and getting the consent and having it be this tedious thing that we're all obligated to do sometimes. But
Sure.
we also know it's like if that's the way sometimes we feel like we need to do it when we're in our field to be like, well, I want to create this group because I have so many people in the same way struggling, but do I just want them all together because they would all connect? Or
Yeah.
is
Right.
it something that we really just want to work on? Like, so I like what you guys bring. That's really cool.
Yeah.
You.
And I think what we found too is that people coming into the space don't even realize that we're therapists or we have a therapy practice up the hall. So a lot of times who's coming in here is they're becoming clients up front because they found this space first.
Yeah, I
It's
love that. I
Uh-huh.
do. Go ahead. No, you're
I was
good. Go
gonna
ahead.
say to Jess's point, like again, because of the way that we market
Uh-huh.
ourselves, like if you look on the Village Vibe social media, almost nowhere on there does it even say that we're
Yeah.
therapists, right? It really speaks more to the fact that we're moms, we're business
Mhm.
owners, we're community members, we're women, right? So we that's our persona
Right.
on that end of things versus our clinical persona where we're practice owners, we're
Mhm.
clinicians. So I think it is kind of, but Jess and I are who Jess and I are in both spaces.
Right.
So anybody
Mhm.
who knows us in either or still gets the same version. They
Yeah.
just don't know that we're doing like most of our clients don't even know that we have Village Vibes.
Right.
They're like, "What is
Mhm.
that?
Yeah.
What's going on down the hall? What's all that noise?" I'm like, "Oh, there's an
Mhm.
event happening." I'm like, "What kind of event?" So
Right.
a lot of people don't even really know that we're behind the scenes on both
Mhm.
ends of things.
Yeah.
See, I love that you made that distinction between like therapist you and then all other parts of you because that's really the bottom line. I feel like when someone is looking for their village, and we talk about this a lot with moms. Like I'm a mom, also I get it. It's so different when you're like, well, I'm a new person, and there's this part of me that like my friends don't really understand, or they don't get this chapter of my life, or if you go through another life transition and you just don't feel like your people know you and you want to reach out, but that resource navigation is sometimes so hard because I'll even tell my some of my clients like, "Okay, well, you're lonely, like what can we do about that?" And they're like, "I have no idea. I don't know. Like, what am I looking for? Oh, well,
Mhm.
financially, I can't do ABCD. Like, I can't just enroll in Pilates because I can't afford that. Okay, well, what's free? Well, what's free is not close to me, or I don't have a car, or I don't have, this or that. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what hobbies I like. So I love that you guys have so many different things too, it sounds like, because that is so helpful for someone to just be like, I'll try something. But like
Exactly.
in the position that many of our clients are in where maybe they don't have something like what you're offering accessible, where do we start with this like village building mindset? How do we encourage someone to say, I know you're lonely, I know you feel very down on yourself, I know you don't know what you're looking for. Like, what's a good starting point to help someone build that new circle?
I was going to say, if that was my client, I
Mhm.
would often suggest maybe like reverse engineering that thought process in the sense that, like, okay, we're not really sure what to go to or where to go, right? But we know what we're feeling. How do we figure out what we want to feel, right? What is going to feel
Mhm.
different for us? And then how do we get from here to there? So, again, if you're lonely and you're trying to feel a sense of community, well, now we know we're looking specifically for community
Mhm.
events. So are you feeling lonely as a mom? Are you feeling lonely as a woman? Are you
Mhm.
feeling lonely as a business owner? Well, now we know we have to look for those types of events.
Right.
And I think really just kind of like reverse engineering what their end goal is and what it is that they're trying to achieve or what it is that they're trying to feel is probably I that's how
Yeah.
I would do it with a client if somebody was in that position.
Yeah. I think there's also like the empowerment piece of like, if you can't find it, can you build it? Right. Is there local people that you can connect with? Or maybe starting out, if you're a mom, maybe starting out at a park doing a walk, or if you are wanting to do a book club, can I advertise a book club? Right. How can I start something that I'm interested in and maybe empowering somebody to be able to create their own village that way?
I love that. Would you guys say, like, when you had the imagination to build the village, like, hanging out space, did you guys think about a certain age population when you were doing it, or was it just like because I know we do see it through every phase of life,
Mhm.
right? So, was it generally that, or what would you guys say is, like, the main age range that maybe you see in your practices?
I'd say like, well, our practice serves birth through like, well, five really, five through,
Lifespan.
yeah. So the practice itself, we have therapists that serve every phase of life. But for Village Vibes specifically, I would say we probably see women anywhere from like late 20s to like early 50s, somewhere in that range. Yeah.
Again, depending on the type of event that it is, we've
Mhm.
had like we have a yoga instructor. She comes in once a
Mhm.
month. She runs a yoga group.
Yeah.
Um, so she has a pretty consistent following
Mhm.
for that. So you see the same group of ladies that come in for that every month. But we've had junk journaling
Mhm.
groups in here where we've had very young 20s all the way up to 50s, all in the
Yeah.
same room.
Mhm.
So I think it really does depend again on the type of event. A lot of moms, we do see a
Yeah.
lot of moms. Moms are really, 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 really
Really
looking
looking for
for
their
that
village.
village.
Yeah. Mhm.
That is something that is so important for them. So
Mhm.
we see a lot of that kind of stuff come through the door as well. Or the moms looking for their village or looking for their people, or again, just looking for a space to maybe not be a mom for
Yeah.
2 hours, or looking for a
Mhm.
space to not have to be somebody's partner for 2 hours. So I think, like just said, I think it's a little bit of
I
everybody and
do.
everything.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
I like that answer. I assumed that age range just because my mind goes to one, either motherhood, which you guys both brought up,
Mhm.
or if it's not motherhood, it's like that life transition of like, even, when you see single people and they're dating, it's like, I don't want to go to bars anymore. I don't really want to be out. So, how do you hang out and find new friends? And how do you find relationships when it's not the same scene? And really, that adjustment's hard for people. Like,
Yeah.
where do I go?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
that age range you said, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's that age range we're talking about," whether it is
Yeah.
new moms, new dads, or life
Mhm.
adjustments of, like, I'm just different than younger me.
Sure.
Absolutely. And I think with working from home being so much more right, prevalent and common right now, that would be a big place where that age range would meet a lot of people that they would spend time with. And with that being gone, it creates even more of that sense of isolation.
And also to that point, what you were saying that like you have work, you have home, that's,
Hmm.
you talk about that third space. Like where are people
Hmm.
going to hang out
Right.
that is not in a bar,
Yeah.
that is not insanely expensive for
Hmm.
today's standards, right? Like where can people go either on a
Hmm.
Friday night or a Sunday
Yeah.
morning? So that's, you hear so much these days about that third space that was also part of the inspiration
Yeah.
for Village Vibes is let's give everybody that third space that they're looking for. We
Hmm.
have it. So
Why not use it?
Yeah, and just from a like clinical perspective, I know everything that we do, we have that background, right? So there's that element of prevention and being prepared for transitions in life. And I think that very often people who are reaching for community and reaching for their village are at that critical mass point where they really feel isolated and they don't have
Hmm.
anybody.
Okay.
So, from your work in building this community and building this space and also working with clients like we all do, you know, where's the intervention point that can be really helpful when you see someone starting to struggle or you see that there's a life transition on the horizon or they come to you and they're like, "Hey, just like don't feel like myself. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like." Do you think that with this knowledge that you have that there's a place where you can say, hey, before you get to the point where you're really lonely and have nobody, and, how can we have that conversation where it's empowering and it's not like, get ready for this horrible part in your life, but just sort of preparing someone to build that community and build that village and ask for support in the right way. Right way.
Well, I think in our practice, and I think I can say both of us are very connection and village focused in our practice. So it's something that we talk about often in our sessions with people, right? Being able to focus on who is your support system? What kind of support system do you have? How do you create that support system if it's lacking? So I think that it's something that's such a common thread throughout what we do on a day to day basis that it kind of transitions easy to this. So prior to somebody going into a crisis kind of situation or prior to someone coming up to that big transition, it's already so much part of the conversation and the work that we're doing that it's a little bit of an easy bridge for us to work with our clients.
I think too, specifically, like, again, depending on what life stage somebody is
Hmm.
transitioning through, I think especially like, for Jess and I in the ages that we're in right now or for the phase of life that we're in, I think it's easy for us to be able to kind of have those conversations specifically with
Hmm.
like new moms because we're a couple of years ahead of it. So to say like, listen, these are some of the things that we might want to start thinking about or
Hmm.
we might want to start preparing for, or maybe some of these are the services we should have on deck for after the baby and you're home and you're settled. So I think again, just having some of those like proactive types
Yeah.
of conversations and kind of presenting it to them that way as a proactive
Hmm.
conversation versus having to be reactionary in a situation where maybe we're not in our best state of
Hmm.
mind or maybe we're not feeling our greatest. It's a lot easier to find the answers to questions before something happens. So
Hmm.
that's typically how I would present
Yeah.
or intervene on something like that.
Yeah, it's like a setting up for like preventative care, that just helps people.
Yeah.
Would you, in you guys' personal and professional opinion, the way the world's going now with I know you mentioned, social media and all the virtual world that we live in, do you think there's gonna be a yearning in the next decade of like what you're building in the sense of village vibes where people the younger generations are gonna want to be in person and or we're gonna at least need that? Because I think as therapists, right? Like when AI first came out, I remember everybody, not just therapists, people were like worried about our jobs.
Hmm.
And then it hit a point where at least me as a clinician, I was like, or I think us mental health people are going to have a lot more on our plates in the sense of making these connections, like what you guys are providing. That's why I'm like in my head, like, this is amazing. Cause it seems to me at least that might have to be the turn back around point of like getting people back in person when mental health and emotional health starts getting very hard the next decade.
I feel like it's a little bit of a loaded
Yeah.
question.
Hmm.
I mean, I would agree. I think, technology has been so great to us in so many ways, but has been such a detriment in so
Hmm.
many ways. So I would be very curious. I mean, I have teenagers, so I'm kind of watching them, navigate this world through technology and social media
Yeah.
and seeing how that's playing out in their lives and their social skills. And it's, tough to watch from time to time. So there definitely is, I think, a major level of concern as to how all of that is going to continue to impact socialization and
Hmm.
how people put themselves in various settings or don't for that matter. But yeah, I don't know. I'm concerned. I
Yeah.
would say I'm concerned.
I'm trying to think of the person's name, but there's a researcher right now. He talks often about the isolation epidemic that we're in right now. And I think that it's a bit of a bubble and bubbles eventually burst. But what that is going to look like when it does, I'm not sure. I would hope that it looks like people seeking more in-person connection and being able to reconnect with each other on a different level, because I think that that is lacking right now. And I think that that in-person feel is just something that the kids do need and that social media does kind of take away from people. But I do think that there's a place for it, right? There's a place for social media, there's a place for technology, there's a place for AI, there's a place for all of it. But what that looks like, I think, needs to shift a little bit. And we need to really help guide people to what that would be most healthiest for them in their lives. I think that's going to be an individual thing right now and hopefully maybe like more of a societal thing down the line.
Well, that's why I would say I love what your guys are doing because I asked that question particularly because kudos to you. I think we're going to need a lot more of you. So I think we're going to need a lot more people creating the space
Mm.
for people to go to, because there are people that aren't going to create that space. And it takes people like what you guys are doing to have that connection come back. So I mean, I appreciate what you guys are doing. I think it's going to be necessary in the upcoming years. So,
Thank
Thank
you.
but before we end, we always like to ask, I like our conversation was around a lot around like vibes and villages and connections. If somebody listening to our podcast takes anything out of what we've talked about, what's like a tip, a tool, a trick that you would be able to give them? Because we like to do that at the end so people are able to take things and like use our tools when they hear it.
I'm always good. I love a good
She
one-liner.
loves a good It's a slogan gal.
I am a slogan gal. I don't know. I think it is find your village. Like stop talking, more doing, right? Stop scrolling, more doing. Just get up and get out as much as you can, even if it is just a walk around the corner, if it is just, checking out a new business somewhere in your local town. Oh, I don't know. Do you have any good ones?
I think mine would be to just put down your phone, close your computer, go outside for a few minutes, right? Just go back to basics. What are the things that make me feel good? And I think when we come back to basics, it just helps us realign. So that's something I always say in my practice. What does going back to basic look like for you? And start there.
Yeah, I love that. I think that we are getting very complicated in our day to day lives. So that is actually a very helpful tool, I think, just to reconnect with yourself. What makes you happy? What makes you feel
Yep.
like yourself?
hmm
Uh,
And I think we do
so,
a lot.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
these,
Well,
everything is heightened. Everything is extra.
Yep.
Everything is on the next level. I always make a joke about like, I don't know how old your kids are, but field day, when we did field day, it was just a plain t-shirt. Like you just
yeah.
maybe you had a plain t-shirt that the school gave you, maybe if not, you just wore whatever you got. Nowadays,
Right.
kids are bedazzling and
Yeah.
putting their names on it and their beads and there's fringes and there's just everything feels so much more, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
agree. I think simplifying things, going back to the basics,
Mhm.
slowing down as much as you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Everybody is in a go, go, go type of pace. So I think, again, just kind of taking a beat,
Mhm.
taking a look around, taking a look inside, and then kind of figuring out what your next move is going to be.
Yeah.
Yay. Oops. Yay. Well, thank you. I think this is such an important topic. This is something that so many people ask for help with. And, I love what you guys are doing. So this may be a movement that you've started, just to give some ideas. We love that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your time and, your
Thank you for having
ideas.
us.
It's just so helpful and so needed. So, we appreciate everything that you've shared and we, hope that someone benefits from something here, that they're just have questions that maybe we've answered. Um,
Well,
but
thank you both. We
Yes,
appreciate
thank
the both of
you.
you, and this was wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
And we
thank
love the
you.
stuff that you guys are
Yeah.
putting out. Again, the very
Mhm.
real, authentic
Mhm.
conversations. Again, you see
Yeah.
everybody, all the therapists on TikTok, and, some are very raw and very real and very truthful to what this field and what this
Mhm.
position looks like. And
Yeah.
I always appreciate that point of view
Mhm.
as well. So thank you so much for putting that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And listeners, if you want any more information about Lisa and Jess, let us know. We will link their stuff. And unfortunately, because we're in Florida, so some of the people that know us in the area can't come to your space. But if we have New York listeners and stuff, if you're close to the space, you'll also be able to venture into that world. So
yeah.
Yes.
So, but anyway, thanks everyone for listening.
thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time on We All Have Stuff.
Bye.
Bye.